We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the Cash Flow Pro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of Cash Flow Pro, your daily real estate investing podcast and YouTube channel. I'm here today with Nathan Amaral from Ponta Delgada, Portugal, right? He's about, I forget how far exactly off the Portugal coast, but he is basically in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, a very, very high spot on my bucket list to visit there, the Canary Islands. That whole general area is like, dude, one of our questions at the end of this is, where would you like to vacation? And man, I mean, you're like living the vacation every day. I'm assuming it's obviously more like life there for you, but the idea that somebody is actually there and things happen on those islands where there's like actually life and so on and so forth, things we want to hear about. So anyway, Nathan, welcome to the show. Why don't you start off, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of take it from there. As far as entrepreneur and so on and so forth goes.
Yeah, man. Well, first, Casey, thanks so much for having me on your show.
Absolutely.
I definitely see how we have unique things in common and regarding, capital raising. I mean, a quick summary about how I got here to these islands. My family immigrated from here over to the United States in a small city called Fall River, Massachusetts, many, many years ago. That's where I was born and raised, in Massachusetts. And just, from there, I got exposed to real estate at a young age from my ex-fiance's dad, who kind of pushed me into real estate because he's like, if you want to marry my daughter, you better get into real estate. And he was a mortgage broker at the time. So I got into
Criminal business, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I got into business through him, and became a mortgage broker and got familiar with, anything with financing that way. Did that for about 4 years. And then I started investing myself, very, very slowly in houses to start off with, and then just started scaling up. I met a good buddy of mine. His name is Larry Goins out of South Carolina, and we ended up working together. We partnered on a few projects. And one of the things he taught me, Casey, was I remember going into his office, and he had this like big whiteboard of all these deals that was going on, which is pretty common. But then he said, "I never leave my office." That's what he told me. He's like, "I never leave my office." I was like, "What? You never go look at a property?" He said, "Nope. I do this all virtually." And so when I saw that and I heard that, I said, "Okay, I want to try this." So I bought my first property about 3 or 4 hours away. Never walked the property. And then I did it successfully, flipped it, did another one, and I just kept doing that. And then I started buying properties, holding it, and getting management involved.
Multi-family deals or just one-off?
At the time, it was a mixture of single family and a few multifamilies, but the multifamilies were in Rhode Island and a little bit in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah. But in North and South Carolina, it was single families. And so I just kept doing all this stuff remotely. And then, I think we have a similar thing in common. We have the travel addiction, the travel itch.
I know I do. Every day I'm like ready to go. I'd even go like somewhere in Texas right now if I could get away and go, So.
Yeah, man, that's how I live my life. And so it was just a dream back then. I was like, okay, how can I take my business, and what I do internationally? Ironically, in 2013, I connected with my friend who was a Ugandan citizen, lives in Uganda. We were friends for a long time, and I finally went out there to visit her. And within those 2 weeks, I proposed to her, and we're engaged. So I went back to the United States, to Charlotte. I sold everything I had, like my personal items, sold all that stuff, and then I moved to Uganda 30 days later. shortly after that, a few months after we had our wedding, we were, had our first kid, and then, we were pregnant for our first kid, and then we just built a life there. And I've been living in Uganda now for 9 years.
And that's where she was originally from, you
Yeah,
said?
my wife's Ugandan. Yeah,
Awesome, man.
yeah,
I don't even think like Uganda is one of those places that we always hear about over here, but none of us, I
yeah.
don't think, actually know exactly where it's at. So where is that
So
at?
a little bit of, geography would be, there's Kenya, and then it's to the west of Kenya. Then you have
Okay.
Tanzania. It's just, they're all kind of near Lake Victoria.
So it's like southeast,
South, yeah, it's in the
south.
southeast Africa. Yeah, exactly. Very warm climate, not hot climate. Most people think like, oh, isn't it so hot there? No, it's actually, it doesn't get colder than 65, and it doesn't get hotter than 85. So it's always in that. It's on the
Now
equator, so it's really warm.
we're gonna get to some capital raising stuff, but I gotta know,
Sure.
is that one of those places where you see they always hear the big five? Is that one of those places where you can see all of those, or
What are the big five though?
all
I'm
right,
sorry, I
well,
never
I
heard of
think
it.
it's tigers, like tigers, maybe
Oh,
tigers, cheetahs,
okay.
elephants, giraffes, and
Pro-
rhinoceros or something.
Probably, or gorillas. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you can definitely get all of that. They have safaris like way up north, in the northern part of Uganda. Honestly, I've
Okay.
never been there, nor do I care to go up there. I'm not really interested in animals that way. But yes, anybody who's interested, they do have, like, they're
Because I know
famous for.
Tanzania
Yeah,
is really big, and like the safari stuff is really big. A big
yeah,
part of their economy in
yeah,
Tanzania is visitors,
absolutely.
and and like if you go to Airbnb and check out some stuff in that area, man, they like rent tents in the bush and stuff like
Yeah,
that, you know.
yeah.
And I always like it because my wife's like, I would love to go anywhere. I'll go anywhere you want to go. I'll go anywhere you want to go. And then I propose that, and she's like, except there. And I'm like, oh, and she's like, I'm not high maintenance or anything. I'm like, oh, yeah. So no running water for a night is like, I mean, like you're gonna die. I mean, what's gonna happen? And so anyway, it's one of the, but man, I'm totally enamored with your whole life, honestly.
Oh,
Everything from that beautiful island area where your parents are
yeah,
from to because
yeah,
again, but there's a lot of people, that maybe go their whole life and want to go to Kentucky, and that's, I mean, not that, and maybe to see bourbon, like we drink bourbon all the time or whatever. No, it's just
yeah,
regular life, and I'm sure it's the same, but
yeah.
it's uh, a culture is one of my big, um,
Mm,
like I always say, a lot of people like to go to the beach for the sun and the tan. I like to go somewhere for the
yeah,
culture and the food,
yeah.
as you can
Same here.
tell.
Same here.
Um, so anyway, all right, man. Well,
Same here.
let's talk a little bit about. So you kind of dove just a little bit into some capital raising for real estate
Yeah,
and the fact that you were employed by somebody that and helped them raise capital.
yeah.
One of the big kind of things that our listeners are always asking about is how did you talk let's walk through a little bit about maybe your strategy to find capital to start with. And of course
Sure.
there's always the point of, hey, would you like to invest in my deal? And we've all been to that point,
Okay.
but where did you find the people, and how did that
Sure.
network kind of come about?
That's a great question. Actually, I learned capital raising all from David Lindahl. Actually, David Lindahl, like I said earlier, he was my previous boss, and today's still a good friend. I started working with him when he had 3,000 apartment units. I think today he's probably around 10,000 or something. This was a good number of years ago. And
He's in Boston.
he's in Boston. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the Boston area. Yeah, and one of the things he taught me, because I was raising capital a little bit for his firm, and then I worked in his education company. But one of the things he taught me was consistency, and I can give you the same phrase that he taught me, and that I still use to this day to raise capital for my own deals. He said, one, you need to be consistent. You need to contact at least two people every day, and that doesn't mean you're talking to them about like an opportunity you have or deals. You're just checking on people. And when you check on people and you have care, and you care about their life a little bit, about what's going on with them, they're going to care about what's going on with you. And the idea is, when someone asks about you, you should have your elevator pitch ready. You should be not talking about all the bad things that are happening in the world. Leave the stock market out of it. Talk about your opportunity. And the way to bring up the opportunity is simply like this. There's like a rule, and the rule is never ask someone directly for money. So that's the first thing. You never ask someone directly, like, hey, are you interested in investing in this opportunity? Or you don't do that, because you leave out a very important element. Yeah. And that is fear of missing out, FOMO. And what happens psychologically is, when you ask them if they know someone, say, hey, do you happen to know someone who'd be interested in making anywhere between whatever 6% or 10%, whatever your range is, on secured by real estate, right? So you got to come up with your phrase, but you always want to use that magical part, which is, do you know someone? And when that person says, well, tell me more, I'm interested, you just want to act and say, oh, what part of what I said interested you, right? So now you can hear that they're engaged. Now their FOMO is kicking in, because you actually asked for someone else, not them. And when they're engaged and you're hearing about what interests them and what they got going on, you ask them a few more questions about, their capital and what their, where's their money? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your investments? Are you in an IRA? Are you in the Bitcoin? Whatever you're doing. And that kind of starts the conversation. And the important thing to know is, it may not be them investing, but they may know someone. And that referral is what you work off of. A lot of people, when I teach them either how to raise money or I talk to them about raising money, the reality is they'll think of their closest friends and relatives and like, who has money? But it's not that list. You're actually building off that list. So you make a list of the people that you have in your life, of course, and then you connect with them to get their connections. And I think once you follow that principle, it can give you an endless supply of contacts. That has worked very well for myself, and I know David Lindahl teaches that on a regular basis, and it's worked for many people. But those, if you could follow those rules, I guess, per se, that really has helped to raise capital.
So let's go pre. So a lot of people are trying to figure out how to find those people to talk to.
Okay, sure.
The
Yeah,
people to present the FOMO to.
sure.
Where were these people that like registered through content online? Were these people that went traffic that you drove to the website, or, or I'm sorry, that he drove to the website, or how did what was the origination of these individuals?
Sure. So that's a good question, because I think most of the time, people sometimes look too far out rather than looking in what they currently have. I'll give you an example. When we were raising capital, we contacted, like, even if someone's starting out doing this, you could contact someone local who owns a local business or a local franchise. Maybe there's someone that you visit their establishment, or you go to their restaurant on a regular basis, or you have friends who have businesses. That's a good place to start, because you're really looking to tap into other people's networks. Some people join Rotary because it's a trusted group of individuals. Some people join the golf club. I started golfing 3 years ago just to expand my circles. I've joined also a yacht club. So maybe remember, like, if you're around people who are high net worth individuals or high income earners, the conversation and the activities they do are going to be a little bit different. So they may not be something you're currently doing. Maybe it's something you can learn, but you can start networking. And I think that's a really important thing, is networking.
And everybody forgets that.
Yeah,
Everybody comes in and sits down and they hit that publish button on their Facebook ads and they're like, "Oh, damn, it's been a week and I haven't gotten any money." And I'm like,
yeah.
"Okay, how do you know these people?" "Well, I ran an ad."
Yeah, I don't know. I've never ran ads for raising private equity, and I know it's more doable now than ever before since the Jobs Act. But I will say this: I think at the end of the day, even if I've been spammed so many times for opportunities, but I wouldn't even consider those because I don't know the person. I mean, raising private capital is all about trust. At the end of the day, you got to know the person that you're working with, you're partnering with. I think that's really important.
And that whole element of trust, man, that's so vital
Yeah.
to every degree of this entire business.
Hmm.
And people, I think sometimes people they know they trust their self, so they can't understand why that trust can't be duplicated immediately.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Nathan, I just met you. Don't you trust me?
No, no, no.
I mean, are you going to send me, hey, Nathan, are you going to send me 50K, dude? I
Right.
mean,
It
come on.
takes time. It takes time.
It's a good investment though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to yield 8% and come on, just send it,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that whole vibe is just screwy. And
Yeah.
then you come off and then they wonder because and one reason and again, I know this is probably part of the discussion that maybe you were expecting or not, but I want to have it. Um, the idea that so people have this apprehension about car shopping because of the car
Mm.
salesman, right?
Right. 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 Right.
And why do we not like quote unquote the car salesman?
Right.
And it's because the car salesman has 30 seconds at
Mm-hmm.
best to get you to know, like, and trust them.
Yeah.
There's not a script anywhere on this planet that is going to fully work in 30 seconds. And these guys put I say these guys, ladies, whoever in the upper end of the
Yeah.
car industry, they're working on
Right.
numbers. The
Right.
salesman has the unfortunate task of moving somebody from one point to another in 30
Mm.
seconds.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so, and I think that that's what leads to the apprehension of us saying, I don't even want to drive down to the car lot because I don't want to deal with them.
True.
And I'm just
Yeah.
like, and it's so amazing to me that these car dealers, as big and pretty and beautiful and everything as they build them and make them, that they can't figure that one part out where, hey, let's take care of all these other things so that when somebody shows up here,
Mm.
they're ready. They know, like, and
Right.
trust us. But anyway,
Yeah.
so
True.
so we start with networking in order to build the know, like, and trust element. Then, as you move forward with the know, like, and trust element, doing what you said, exactly what you said, as far as
Yeah.
don't ask for money. Hey, I've got an investment opportunity coming up. I just wondered if maybe you had any friends in the for instance, I've got some investors that are in the film industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just, so that's my go-to. I know they're in the film, so I just wondered if maybe you had anybody else that
Mm-hmm.
might be interested in looking at placing some capital here
Yeah.
in order to do this.
Yeah, and also there's like a lot of people don't think about this, but this is an element that David taught us years earlier. I would say one of the things is sometimes you have to go where the audience is. So that could be the golf course, the yacht, whatever. But I'll give you another example. One of the things we went to every year was the pediatrics expo for pediatricians. Okay, and this is where there's a big expo, and you're just hanging out with who? Doctors, right?
Yep.
Pediatricians. So guess what? Those are high net worth individuals looking to place capital, sometimes for tax purposes. But you have to be prepared for that audience.
Well, and
There's many. Mm-hmm.
the thing I like about doctors and pediatricians and those kinds of audiences
Mm-hmm.
is they're typically not the guys that want control. And I say
Right.
that because you put two lions in one den and things
Mm-hmm.
could get wonky real quick, right?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the Cash Flow Pro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 Must-Know Keys to Success in Passive Real Estate Investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making Cash Flow Pro part of your day. Now, back to the show.
Yeah.
And when you take somebody that says, hey, man, and I'm not just saying that they just instantly write you a check because they met and know and liked and whatever.
Right. Right.
I'm saying that they come into a deal because they're off saving lives or doing surgeries or fixing the world. And they're
Yeah.
like, hey, man, I'm making this money. You take care of it, put it over here,
Hmm.
let's make something happen. And
Right.
so it just, you're exactly right. And I don't mean,
Hmm.
I know you were just using them as an example, but
Yeah.
it's really important to understand that, you know, whether you're after retail money or
Hmm.
whether you're after, you know, industry money or like
Institutions.
institutional money. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but you're right. Go where the audience is.
Yeah,
And if
yeah. And the best thing to do that is put your face there. You know, like shake hands, meet people. You know, or these days we're pounding it instead of shaking hands. But whatever. You know, get in around those types of people. I'll give you an example. I have a buddy of mine, and he raises funds, and all he does is he raises funds from developers, like computer coders, developers, because they're high net worth individuals. They typically make over 50, 100, six figures a year, and they and sometimes at these companies he goes in, he gets, you know, goes in there as a financial you know, advisor, and he has meetings with them. He does little meetings, like 5, 10 people, and shows them where they can park their funds for transactions, for deals, and the rate of return they're going to get compared to, for example, the stock market. And now is a great time to be doing these presentations or these networking, because the stock market is at an all, like, really low, right? So we have red everywhere in the stock market. People are like looking at their statements. They're really nervous and worried and like, when is it going to come back? And here you are, you have an opportunity with real estate as an increased opportunity. It's just been going up this for a while. And that's a great opportunity to start the conversation. And everybody's talking about it right now, you know, more than normal. So the conversations can come up a lot easier when you're networking.
yeah. It makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Hmm.
So, all right, well, let's talk a little bit about what you've got going on today.
Hmm.
What is the landscape look like? And as far as your travels go, how do you piece all of that together? Because I know we talked a little bit about senior living and some
Sure.
other things.
Yeah. So like, what am I doing, like, currently, like, investment with?
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah. Well, currently I'm doing all, it's because I'm living a lot remotely. I do a bunch of stuff remotely. I do flip a lot of properties remotely. I have, you know, a team of people in the United States, a small team, nothing huge. I do have some senior living project here on this island because of the demographics, and I noticed there was a demand. So initially, I was looking at hotels, and I made a few offers on hotels, and then that project changed because we heard about some news and the demographics. There was like a huge waiting list for seniors to get into assisted living. So that was a pretty, you know, a slice of a pie to get involved in that opportunity. And then in Uganda, pretty much property management, a little bit of land, purchasing land and whatnot, but mostly property management. We have about, I think, 20 or 18 units under management right now. It's been, I've kind of delegated a lot of that out, but that's pretty much what we got going over there. We got property management in the 3 different countries, because we got short-term rentals in the U.S., Portugal, and in Uganda. So those are the 3 countries that I pretty much operate in at this point in time.
yeah, and that's you know, having the team part of that element, of course, I'm sure is certainly more important to you than
Yeah.
maybe even to a lot of other people, but
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
far more important to you to have your team and somebody you trust and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So,
Yeah.
the senior citizens
Hmm.
facility that you have there,
Yeah.
what talk to us a little bit about how did you raise money for that, and
Yeah.
then did you put all that together as like a syndication or just a LLC deal where you just had an investor or two, or
Yeah, so actually, it started off as the idea was to do a syndication. That was their first initial thing. And then when I started going about 6 months into the deal, because things here move a little bit slower, 6 months, you could probably have the whole deal done in the United States, but here things will move a lot slower. So it went from a syndication deal to just small investor pool, and just very simple LLC. I mean, that's basically, or an entity. They don't have LLCs here particularly, but just a small, you know, partnership, and got the deal funded and closed, not on time, because literally, it was interesting. The property was under contract in December of 2019, and COVID hit.
Yeah.
So, and here everything got locked down. Everybody was in their homes for a few months. So everything just stopped,
Yep.
and picking all that up again and raising capital during that time was not easy. Like,
Yeah.
that was not easy. Yeah. So I remember my wife telling me, she's like, I've never seen you so stressed before. I'm like, this has probably been the most stressful deal. And it hasn't even been my biggest deal, but it was a very stressful time, COVID, and raising capital during that time was not easy.
I can't imagine that anything during that time. I know how tough it was here in the United States.
Hmm.
Um, and I say tough because I mean we it just was like, man, you couldn't even go buy a toilet seat. You couldn't even go buy
Yeah.
new door handles for a
Yeah.
project you were working on, or it was just
Exactly.
such a mess. But
Yeah.
and then especially on some of those smaller islands, I'm sure that everybody was just freaking out because
Yeah.
I'm sure healthcare is okay, but I'm sure
Mm.
you probably have to go to the mainland, right, to get
Well, no,
big.
we had a hospital. We have a hospital here, and then they had just finished their second hospital. But the first one is a public hospital, which is pretty common in Europe for public health.
Yeah.
And then we had our first private hospital, which wasn't even finished yet. So the primary hospital was packed out of people. Like, there was people everywhere. So what they even had people in the halls. So what they did was they did to keep people out of the hospital. They did a forced mandatory lockdown. So people couldn't leave their homes for 2 months. They could go right outside of their house, walk around, and go back in, but they could not go downtown. They couldn't. Yeah, it was like that for 2 months,
Wow.
just
Isn't
because
that something?
to keep people out of the hospitals. Yeah. So
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. It was
yeah.
just, it was such a crazy time. So anyway, all
Hmm.
right. Well, listen, Nathan, I want to thank you first of all for being with us
Yeah.
today. Secondly, we ask a couple of questions to everybody that comes on the show.
Sure.
There's no right or wrong answer, but it's just a way for us to get an idea of who you are and what you're about and so on. So, what
Mhm.
is the best book that you have recently read or are currently reading?
The best book I've recently gone over again is The 12-Week Year.
Yep.
If you're looking at, managing your time better, which
Yeah.
I've been recently having to do that in the past few years, but it's The 12-Week Year is a great read. It's my second time reading it.
Awesome, man.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that time management, again, it's the same as team management. It's so crucial,
Mm.
and I'm the worst at time management. I just tend to get carried away, as my listeners, I'm sure, are well aware. I get onto something and then tend to maybe stay on a little bit too long. So, what the second question, again, this is one I told you earlier in the episode, what we were going to ask was, what is the best vacation or a dream vacation that you have either taken or hope to take? And again, I know that's hard when a man lives or spends as much time there as you do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
I
and to answer that, yeah, I don't even live my life these days. I don't even vacation anymore. Like, the word vacation, like, oh, take time off. Like, I love what I do for work, and I just travel along the way. So yeah,
Sure.
I would say the place I haven't been yet that I really desire to go to is Indonesia. I want to get over to Bali,
Yep.
and that's anything Southeast Asia. Yeah, so anything in that area, I want to get over there.
Yep, I agree. And there's a couple areas, and I'm not sure a lot of people know this. There's a couple areas in the southern Philippines that are
Mm,
just like I've looked at them online, and they're just absolutely spectacular, like
very true.
spectacular,
Very true.
capital S. So
Very true.
anyway, all right. Well, Nathan, if the listeners heard something that resonated with them and they'd like to possibly reach out and get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Best way would probably just go to like an email, or just go to the website. The website is fearless millionaire.com, or they could just shoot me an email at nathan@fearless-millionaire.com.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, thank you so much for being on the show today. We
Thanks, man.
really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be on here. And
Yeah.
listeners, if you like what you heard today, head on down and leave us a 5-star review, and also type us a review so that others might be able to get an idea of what we're about, what they might hear from our show. And also smash, elbow, pinky, finger, eye, ear, whatever, that subscribe button, please hit it with whatever appendage you feel necessary. And we certainly appreciate you taking your time today to listen to what we had to say. And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you. And Nathan, thank you again.
Cashflow Pro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.